shepherd. My sheep know me and I know them. You know, that powerful image that Jesus used of the shepherd was not what they expected when they came. And they'd come to recognize Jesus Messiah. They were expecting a warrior king, a warrior Messiah. Someone with strength and power. And that was their vision of who the Messiah was going to be. That's what they were expecting. That's what they wanted. So much so that Peter and the disciples struggled greatly with this. And several times, the only time when Peter got this wrong and was admonished by Jesus, saying, "Get behind me," he said it in the harshest possible terms. So he gave the most non-violent leader image that you could have come up with at the time for men, which was a shepherd. A shepherd was not a violent man. A shepherd was a man who had feminine characteristics. The ones who cared for the sheep, even carried the sheep. And this is the image that Jesus holds up for all his disciples. Now Paul comes along and he starts to recognize this, and these letters are some of the pastoral letters, of which one of them is to Titus, who we are in the church, of which Titus is dedicated to. And Titus would have been in this land, where this exact location, we're not sure. But Titus was the apostle, the disciple of Paul, sent to Crete to preach the good news. I didn't know until today that they had a long history of non-violent, gentle leaders, Manoans, with feminine characteristics too. And maybe even maybe the leader was a queen, as we heard today. But that image of caring, nurturing, loving is one that's central to what Jesus has said. And Paul adopted it later in his life, especially in the letter to the Romans. He starts to tell them. But in today's reading here from the letter to Titus, he says, all you men, what he's talking elders, which would be what basically is future bishops. He wanted a going elder, what they call, at that time, episcopoi or priest, which, and the word they use, appoint will be the word that actually is translated later as ordained. But the point being is that these men need to have the characteristics. One of the characteristics is non-violent, not quarrelsome, gentle. And then he gives a whole list. And then, by the way, they need to not be drunkards and only have one wife. And that's a tough list. But the idea is that Paul recognized that what the people always need in every generation is a gentle leader. Somebody who comes along and encourages them to be the best version of themselves. And that's true for our generation too. We need gentle leaders. Many of you are leaders in your own family. The mothers, the caretakers in your own family. You know how powerful that image of mother as a nurturing caregiver. We're so far away from being shepherds in the sense of none of us are farmers. And so that image is kind of lost on us. But a nurturing mother, or I would say a nurturing father, because we have that too now. Nurturing father and image is a great image for us. That's what we're called to be. And think of it as how do we do correction as a nurturing mother? There are very seldom the times you scold. You typically will chide, encourage, and eventually, yes, if they are not listening, yes, you scold. But it's the very last resort. It's what Paul actually starts to preach later in his life. He became a gentle shepherd. At that beginning, he was more harsh, scolding them, and then he took on more feminine gifts of leadership. I don't know about you, but I found it fascinating today. 1,700 years before Christ, the Manoans, how advanced they were. And here we are, some 3,700 years later, and we're making the same mistakes again and again. Men are leading us into war again. Men are fighting for positions of authority and of power. Maybe it is time for more female representation, both in the church and out of the church. That it is time that we listen to the Holy Spirit and recognize the gift of the feminine leadership that is one of gentleness, of kindness, of a nurturing love. I think it's providential that we are here today and listening to Titus encourage that the elders be one of gentle leaders, leaders who help the people grow in their faith. And so when we go back home, can we be the gentle nurturers of people in faith, whether they be our own children or our grandchildren or other people's children or just our neighbors? Can we be those who are gentle